You keep hearing the same three words. Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, the Nasdaq. People say them like everyone already knows the difference, so you nod along, the way you always nod along. But if someone stopped you and asked you to explain how those three things actually relate to each other, you would probably go quiet. That is the whole job of the next few minutes. By the end, those three words will not feel like three rival places you're supposed to memorize. They will click into one simple picture. And it is a picture that begins, strangely enough, under a tree in the year 1792. Nos cães, nos shouting, nos quiscrapers. Just a tree, a few men, and a handshake that quietly grew into the center of global finance. So let's untangle it, one word at a time, slowly, with nothing memorized, until it simply makes sense. Start with the biggest one, Wall Street. You picture a place, a street full of glass towers, men in suits shouting into phones. And there's a real Wall Street, a real narrow street in Lower Manhattan. But that is not what people mean when they say it. When people say Wall Street, they are not pointing at a street. They are using a nickname. It is the catch-all name for the biggest stock market in the world. A mood, a place, an idea, all bundled into two words. And here's the first thing that surprises people. That one nickname is actually covering two completely different exchanges. Not one, two. The first is the New York Stock Exchange. The second is the Nasdaq. Two separate marketplaces, living under the same nickname, like two brothers who share a last name. Now I want to take the pressure off you right away. When you buy a share of a company, you usually have no idea which of these two exchanges that share actually lives on. You tap a button in an app and you own a piece of the business. The exchange behind it is invisible to you. It works silently in the background, the way the plumbing in a building works, doing its job whether or not you ever think about it. And the honest truth is, it does not matter to you. As an everyday investor, the question of which exchange your stock trades on changes almost nothing about your life. So if that detail has ever quietly stressed you out, you can let it go. We are learning this for understanding, not because you will ever have to choose. Still, a couple of real names make it concrete. Coca-Cola, Disney, and the bank JP Morgan all trade on the New York Stock Exchange. Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia all trade on the Nasdaq. You have almost certainly owned or wanted one of those companies without ever once checking which exchange it sat on. Okay, two exchanges, one nickname. Let's meet them because they have very different personalities. Meet the older brother first, the New York Stock Exchange, the one people shorten to NYSE. To really understand it, we have to go back to that tree. The year is 1792. There is no app. There is no screen. There is barely a country yet. On a spring day, a small group of men gathered outside number 68 Wall Street under a buttonwood tree. A buttonwood, by the way, is just the old name for what we now call sycamore. An ordinary shade tree on an ordinary street. There were 24 of them, 24 stockbrokers, and they signed a short, almost stubborn little agreement promising to trade securities with one another under a clear set of rules. That document has a name now. It is called the Buttonwood Agreement, signed on the 17th of May, 1792. The New York Stock Exchange counts that quiet handshake under a tree as the day it was born. Sit with how small that beginning was. No marbid, no bell, no cameras, just 24 men, a single sheet of paper, in the shade of one tree that would later fall in a storm and become a legend. Everything you now think of as Wall Street, the towers and the trillions, traces back to that one modest promise. Big things almost always start smaller than the stories admit. From that seed grew the institution you have seen 1,000 times without knowing its name. The grand building with the columns and the enormous flag draped across the front. That is the New York Stock Exchange, still standing in Lower Manhattan, more than 2 centuries later. And remember the pizza from last time? A company slices itself into tiny pieces and sells the slices to raise money. The New York Stock Exchange is one of the great rooms where thousands of companies come to do exactly that. It is a place built for selling slices of the pizza to the public. For most of its life, this was a deeply physical place. A real floor. Real human beings standing shoulder to shoulder, shouting, signaling with their hands, surrounded by a wall of screens. There's a man who has become the face of that floor. His name is Peter Tuchman. With his wild hair and wide eyes, he's been photographed on that trading floor so many times that people call him the most photographed trader on Wall Street. When you picture the chaos of the old exchange, you are really picturing his world. The noise, the paper, the hand signals, the human crush of it. For most of a century, that was what a stock market looked like. That is the older brother. Stone, history, a physical floor, a tree in 1792. Now meet the younger one, because he could not be more different. The Nasdaq, the adventurous brother, the restless one, the one who looked at all of that history and asked a simple, almost rude question. Why do we need a building at all? The Nasdaq arrived much later, in 1971, and it was born from a radical idea for its time. The man widely called the father of the Nasdaq was Gordon Macklin, who ran the Dealers Association behind it. His belief was almost heresy back then. He thought a physical trading floor was unnecessary. If computers could connect buyers and sellers across the whole country, who needs a room? Why pay for marble and floor space when a quiet machine could do the matching faster, cheaper, and at a scale no shouting floor ever could? So the Nasdaq launched as the world's first electronic stock market. No shouting floor, no Buttonwood tree, just a network of computers quietly matching buyers and sellers. While the older brother lived in stone, the younger brother lived in wires. And that single decision shaped everything that followed. Because the Nasdaq was built digital from the start, it naturally attracted the companies that lived and breathed technology. The software makers, the chip designers, the internet giants. The tech world flocked to the exchange that already thought like them. It became a kind of home address for innovation. If your company was built on code and chips, listing on the digital exchange just felt like the natural fit. The two even live in different parts of the city. The New York Stock Exchange sits down in Lower Manhattan, near where that tree once stood. The Nasdaq's bright, glowing tower stands up in Times Square, wrapped in screens, looking exactly like the digital future it bet on. So now you have met both brothers. The old one, stone and history and a physical floor. The young one, glass and screens and pure electronics. And here's where it all comes back together. For you, the everyday investor, the difference between them mostly disappears. When you own shares in the biggest companies in the world, it does not really change your life whether they happen to trade on the New York Stock Exchange in Lower Manhattan or on the Nasdaq up in Times Square. That is exactly why people stopped bothering to separate them in conversation. They just wrapped both into that one easy nickname. Wall Street. Two exchanges, one name, because to the rest of us they behave like the same thing. And underneath their different personalities, both brothers are doing the very same job. Strip away the columns and the screens, and they're both just platforms. Stages where companies can stand up and raise money from the public. Think about what that money is for. A company that raises capital this way can do more than survive. It can build the next factory, hire the better team, reach the bigger market. It can operate better, and in doing so, create more value for the very investors who funded it. That is the quiet purpose humming under both exchanges. Your money does not just sit in a screen. It travels into a real business and helps it grow. And when the business grows, the slice you own can grow with it. So let's gather it all into one clean picture, the one I promised you at the start. Wall Street is not a building. It is a nickname for the biggest market in the world. That market is made of two exchanges. The New York Stock Exchange, the old brother, born under a buttonwood tree in 1792. And the Nasdaq, the young brother, born in 1971 as the world's first all-electronic market. Different ages, different homes, different styles. The same fundamental job. And to you, the investor, very nearly the same thing. That is the picture. Those three words you used to nod along to are now one idea. You can actually see one nickname, two exchanges, one shared purpose. That is the entire knot untied. And we're only getting started because there's a layer above all of this that you have also heard 100 times. The Nasdaq as a number that moves. The S&P 500, the Dow Jones. Those are not exchanges at all. They are something else entirely. And they're the key to how people actually measure whether the whole market is up or down. They are scoreboards, not stadiums. And once you understand the difference, the news will suddenly start making a lot more sense. But that is the next episode. For now, the next time someone casually drops Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, and the Nasdaq into the same sentence, you will not go quiet. You will see the tree, the two brothers, and the one simple nickname that ties them together. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep it simple and keep watching the slices grow. Yalla. See you soon.